财经朝南疆公巴藏比作他大主巴的七巴拉大作巴当天巴听见了这边明朗中面风景一点没落随便军作进里面的呢特别的话了对面全部就话听见了南大上巴体育长巴也陈大西京巴也清巴也天边早晚叔叔他巴了主巴宁波七巴今年让你叔叔龙啊几件多嘛就多我讲真的我从年多这位不记为讲究深究中巴三大即将出征那说了恐怕面那全球民主把那把的同年就是当巴了主巴这边罗巴经济罗北越来越往西接近杨大漂亮最近就把一些年劳动送这里牛都去了就我听见了怎么了讲牛都我的这把问题出去了多的给上节日中我他妈叫了年度就把听见了这这我这能年度的也能达到这他妈说话了就嘛没别你把你就说到具体说话听见了天天具体用过的年纪年那么7000多年准备一推荐能就出来没有刚才说些如果的听见了这当然上天没新年当之前特别说那么小点点其他难的好多具备你我小我听见了都说叫我混的养大喇嘛当咱们去接别了浪接接啥大浪接云带到做都接长天国王牛多数
And then we offer the mantra, which is on page 12. That's first. You drop the number. It's on page 12. It's the verse on the bottom first, and then the based on the teaching.
Droba Pinchil Sanje, Droba Radhana Mimida Myanji, Umbadan, Jadina, Chuchi Jola, Chawachaba, Namasanje, Sumara, Ruchi, Jinjaba, Nadaji, Dami, Chini, Jin, Dirishi, Shialai, Gedaludani, Jinki, Bumda, Mi, Ganamda, Ruagun, Jedanam, Jedamba, Tamji, Gedoda, Chu, one of the Teneda, Majunan, Getada, Nimbi, Sinja, Tamji, Jutundo, Tabjalana, Majiba, Yankuzi, Yanku, the Zoba, Sanji, Jukuban, Moji, you want to Tobarcha, get over Cherry Chido, Tambi, Chusam, Tene, Toji, but then Adisha and Baby Dene, no other than a Lojan, no Richmond, Chin did of December, Joe and Bokono, Kunji, and Banam, never says of December show.
So initially, we should correct or adjust our attitude or motivation for receiving the teaching, thinking that just as far as space extends, existing within that space, are countless individual sentient beings in a state of dissatisfaction or suffering, and in order to separate from that state or liberate from that state, each and every one of them, I myself must achieve the state of complete perfection, the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood as quickly as possible. And in order to achieve such a state, we must initially receive a discourse or a teaching about the path leading to such a state. So with this attitude, let us listen to the teaching on the Bengali saint Atisha's Jewel Rosary for the Bodhisattva.
What did you say? And then Yamba Jabalaya, Tonangalia, to be pained is some word. Tubalaya, pained of Gubayabati, Yawahana, and the Tredia, what you were, true Tubala pain, you were the machine, Game between John Deji. To be some lay, to be Chunam Shibaju, to be Dile Gobaju, to be Tama Imbapa, to be Yang Deva Tog Chesune, and to be Pansum. Yet another son, or the number son Jebet in Belita, Nangi Tamba de Caradesana, Robertson, you named it. And the Robertson did Julia Javala Nevardu, Tubala Temple, Yosan. Robertson de Cadesana, Sudinja Labata, Indian Labata, Sheriff de Labatin, Tissundi. Then Yana Tambo, Tubi, Chunam Shiba, Juru Chen Soba Yenta, Tubaya Wadi Chabayena, Rangi Yamsa Ranjagi Panda, Ombre Panda, at the leg is here, the net Jambani, the Jambashilla, so the Netu Kaditi Yana, Tuba Chena, Tuba Latin, Shintu is, Tuba Men. To be true,
so before we engage in the listening to the teaching, we should understand the benefits of listening to the Dharma discourse, and we should understand the necessity for initially listening to the Dharma discourse. So in order to surmise this, the fully enlightened one, the Buddha mentions in a sutta, which is known as the verses on listening, for the following quotation. Through listening to the teaching, you'll understand what to do. Through listening to the teaching, you'll understand what to abandon. Through listening to the teaching, you will become the lamp which dispels the darkness of confusion. So in these few words, the whole the Buddha's teaching, or the necessity to listen to the teaching, is surmised. We think of the Buddha's teaching in and of itself. It can be condensed into what are known as the 3 higher trainings. They are higher training of ethical discipline, morality, concentration or meditation, and wisdom, which arises therefrom. In order to understand what these are, how to practice them, how to practice the teachings contained therein, such as those of the Four Noble Truths, 2 Truths, etc. One must initially listen to the teaching to know that the actual practice. So as the first line, if we recall the first line, it mentions through engaging in the practice of listening, we'll know what to do. What to do here then refers to whatever practice we may wish to engage in. If we wish to practice that, we need to initially know what it is, we know how to practice it. We can only gain that intelligence from initially listening to discourse. The second line, through power of contact, through the power of hearing the teaching, one will know what to destroy, what to abandon. This refers primarily to the initial higher training, that of ethical discipline and morality. When we look at our contact, we refine it according to the Buddha's teachings on morality, then what we find is that there are certain things that one should engage in, and there are certain things that one should abandon. If we think of, with regard to general ethical conduct, there are things which are to be taken up and to be abandoned in accordance with society, and we know those through hearing about them. But if we go a little deeper with regard to the Buddha's discourse on morality, if we wish to engage in such a practice, we need to know what is meant by restraint. We need to know what is the object towards which we should restrain ourselves. We need to know what action we should abandon. Because through this faulty conduct, one will then accrue negative action or negative karma, and therefore one will cause oneself further discomfort within the kind of contaminated existence. So in order to remove that, as the second line says, thoroughly destroying blockages to liberation or negative actions, through restraining oneself, the ability to kind of restrain one's activity or conduct comes about through the knowing what to take up and what to let go or abandon. And this comes about through hearing the teaching. Through listening to the teaching, one also abandons that which is worthless. Worthless in the sense of it's a waste of one's time. Here when we look at training of concentration, here then if we wish to make our mind stable, we wish to kind of have a clear intelligence which perfectly discerns what one should take up and what one should abandon. One initially needs then to abandon the various distractions of the mind. We think about training in concentration or meditation. We think of the distractions of laxity, of excitement, etc. If we wish to really develop meditation, if we really wish to develop within this a kind of practice, we need to know what to engage in and what to abandon with regard to our particular meditative practice. And then when we start to have certain experiences, we should understand what is to be followed and what is to be left alone. And this understanding all comes through initially hearing teachings about that particular discipline or that particular higher training. So, through listening to the teaching, one abandons what is what is worthless.
로바순지 데 코네 콘데 페티 데네 타르데네 베 타밤네 베 냥알란데 베 코콘 토바 데요 투발라 데니 우르데스 데도 잔네 데네 베 아라도 넘버 3디 베 추라 담보 투바치 데네 삼 데네 곰발라 데네 데네 냥알란데 베 코콘 토고요데 투송 콘소 체발라 데네 냥알란데 베 코콘 토고요 인자 토마 패쳐와도 투바티 차데요 레스 데네 투바티라 데네 로바순지 데 콤베든 조아마시 The
last line reads, through the power of hearing the teaching, one achieves the state of cessation or the state of nirvana. If we think about our Buddhist practice, through perfect meditation, we then reverse this cycle of existence, which is under the domain of destructive emotion, etc. And we remove this through understanding the nature of reality, and through this meditation we achieve then the state of cessation, or the state of that which has gone beyond the contaminated cycle of existence. But this comes about through effort at meditation. The wisdom which arises from meditation is that tool then which cuts through the destructive emotions, which then leads us out of the cycle of contaminated existence. And this comes about through perfect contemplation, which initially depends upon correct hearing of the teaching, correct receiving of the discourse upon which one is going to place one's practice. So, as the last line reads, through then this initial hearing of the Dharma discourse, one achieves the state of nirvana. So understanding that, as a Buddhist practitioner, our aim is to leave the cycle of existence, and in order to get to that place, one needs to develop a wisdom or correct realization, which arises through perfect concentration, which has as its basis ethical discipline, and all of these trainings arise in dependence upon initially hearing Dharma discourse upon those. So with this in mind, for a Buddhist practitioner, hearing, contemplating and meditation are their job, so to speak, and initially then it's very important to give as much time as possible to receiving the Dharma teaching or receiving the Dharma discourse.
도주 되는 게 용수 조발에 되는 게 캐버 주변 고번 통보시에 되고 근데 이제 다 공기 숨에 아전도를 체외 논데데 민기 인상 대한배 런치비체도 많이 봐 산제 탐지제도 나는 봐 양다 봐 조변 산지도 고번 토베치 민기 인상 근데 저번에 민고가 됐어.
So initially then it's important to contemplate how important it is to listen to the Dharma teaching in order to know what to practice. And from within the varieties of Dharma discourse, this particular teaching, which we're going to look at beginning today, is a text called the Jewel Rosary for the practice of bodhicitta. And this particular piece of advice was something written by the great Bengali saint, Tisha. And it is, he was an individual who was a complete master of the exoteric and the esoteric teachings of the fully enlightened one, or the Buddha, and he composed this kind of piece of advice for the benefit of his disciples. And within this we find that all the important points of the esoteric and the exoteric teachings of the fully enlightened one. So with the attitude of listening to this teaching, thinking that I'm going to practice what's contained within the meaning of these words, in order to not only benefit myself in the short and long term, but to be of service to sentient beings who exist as far as space extends. So with this attitude, that we'll begin the teaching.
Sanskrit 제베이나 모드사도 많이 아와리스가 그렇게 제베이나 장주 선비 노블 치모하세요.
So the text is then the jeweled rosary for the practice of bodhicitta. The first line gives the title in its original Sanskrit, Bodhisattva Mani Abali, and the Tibetan translation of that is Jangju Sempi Nobu Tenwa, and the English translation of that is the jewel rosary for the practice of bodhicitta.
Papa Chendezu Onjulaya, Tuji Chimbosen, on the Sumuari, Tatuji Chimbola Chatolosena, Papa Chendezu Onjula Chatolosena, not in the God. Arayasana Chanju Samba Chida Chanju Samba Mango, Tiana Chanju Samba University Jeddah, Rison Bombosen, and the Chanju Samba Mango, you are 10 Nana and the Java Tam Jiji, the Nebegi, or the Jene, Ninja Ronsu. And Papa Chendezu Onju to Chelga. Ten Rotane, Ninja Chimbotan, Tuji Chimbo, Tanda Childe. Ten Rotane, Java Tam Jiji, Ninja Ronsu, Tuji Chimbo, Papa Chendezu Onjula, Chatsa Rose. Chatsa Rose, Boson Kubi Tuji Dubatella, Chatsa Wasu.
So the next lines then are an offering of homage, and here then the exalted object of homage is initially great compassion. So here, great compassion, as you know, is a mindset, but here great compassion is identified as being none other than the superior Avalokiteshvara. So Avalokiteshvara then is unique amongst all the different bodhisattvas in that he is the embodiment of this incredible mind of a bodhicitta and a great compassion. This individual then is the object of Atisha's homage here. In general, when we talk about the various types of bodhisattvas, we can talk of the 8 types or the 3 types of protectors, that is to say the 3 types of protecting bodhisattvas and so forth. From within all of those, the most important one, because of what it represents, is Avalokiteshvara, and that which he represents is great compassion. So here then, initially, Atisha writes, I bow down to great compassion. Here, bow down doesn't just refer to a physical gesture, rather subduing one's 3 doors of body, speech and mind, one offers homage to them, this great compassion.
Karsa Sanskrit jena guruchi, tati belki jena ramachi. Rana tube chwenderji yucheberti de dani de nebas. Lama su lana machiba da, hona machiba su rangi de sunam sabishin, hona machiba yenda lamas. Lama dala kande arisana, mosu chwende tobe lama da. Rana dena mosu chwende tobe ne juile de ne bi chwende toa chibi jube lama chen. Oda dena yuwa. Dena Jati Juju dan, Samuda Jusene, Jubelama Yorba, Ten Rosane, Ten Anne, Tuasandi Chongden Dene, and then Jefferson Jambayan Chetene, about Persa Ludu Chet, Tene, Osandi and the Tawatabas and Tenema Jude Batella, Samuda Jusin. Tuasandi Chongden and Jitin Chambang Gombo, Jitin Chambang Gombo, Tome down, Tene Rube Inia down, Tene Martin, Remerging to Jude Batella. Jajin Juju. That George Bane Adishalaya, Yanan Juju, Gaza, Samu Juju, Jajin Juju Nigalo, Dambati, Atishala, no, Jusuma. Karesana Adishagatene, Lama Selem Gundune, Jajin Juju, Dambati, also Zoba, Semble. Ribio Kuju, Chidonia, Jajuni, Tena, Ribio Kuju, Chuang Gundune, Jutin Jambayane, Lutula Jube, Menga Yosu Zoba Chen, some Taki Juba, Yosu Zoba Chen, Sample. Then you didn't get an itching with orange Mogoso, Karzar, Shunda Chimboni, Le Jube, Samota, Jaji Jubelam, Manu Yosu Jube, Juba, Shanda Chimbo Mamenzela Dusun, and then Georgia Pandi Adishalaya, Majunam. Then the Georgia Pandi Adishal, Koram, the Tamos to Chus and Sagi, Lama Selim Badan, Zibu Kudu Chuanchi. I take the Aya Chitutane, Chandaya, Tugi Pargi, Jubela Matuchi. What that was Samalo Latin was on Quebec on the Chatsel also.
The second exalted object of homage is to all my spiritual masters. So here, what is meant by a spiritual master, if we look at the Sanskrit word, it's guru. If we look at the Tibetan word, it's lama. And these, what is kind of encompassed in these two words is the quality of the person toward whom this is an appropriate title. The meaning of the words is somebody who is heavy with spiritual qualities, somebody who is a very spiritual person, you might say. So towards this type, towards this individual then, a teacher offers homage. Here then, with regard his particular spiritual masters, and then the spiritual masters of his particular lineage, all of those are encompassed within this one short line. If we think about what is meant by one's principal spiritual master, this refers then to somebody with whom one has a spiritual connection. That individual who passes on spiritual instruction to us, which we then use to subdue our unruly minds. This is what is meant by our principal spiritual master, with whom we have kind of a spiritual relationship. And there's also the masters of that individual's particular lineage. For example, if we look way back in ancient India, there are two specific lineages which is known as the profound and the vast. With regard to the profound, this refers primarily to a teaching, profound teaching, which was given by Shakyamuni Buddha to Manjushri, who then handed it down to the subsequent lamas of the lineage, Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and so forth. And then it refers to, there is also the other renowned lineage of the vast activity, which was again a series of teachings, which was given by the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, principally to the individual, the great bodhisattva known as Maitreya, and then to a Sangha, and then passed down through his lineage. A teacher himself received both of these lineages and was renowned as the one who kind of stitched them together. He received the profound lineage from somebody called Rinpoche, the lesser, and he received the vast lineage from the Lama from the Golden Isles, known as Selimpa, and he received these lineages in their entirety and practiced them extensively, ultimately kind of stitching them together to make one lineage. This is recounted in the great exposition of the stages of the path to enlightenment by the unexcelled master Tsongkhapa, who writes that a teacher's principle had over 150 teachers. Principal among them were the lesser Rinpoche and also Selimpa. So these are the kind of direct spiritual masters of a teacher, and then those are the lineages, the masters of which are also referred to within this line of bowing down to all of the spiritual masters.
Oh yeah. Ne tebe hala cha tsu lo jin de sumba yin za. Ji da ne de ne be cha je lu su ju bin ji de len de be ha tham je dang. Shebar do rang de ne be ke ba be shu chen bu che sa gi i dam ge la khan yin na ya ane tela de ne be cha tsu lo so tebe hala cha tsu lo so. Ta de ge de ne yu chebar je na de ne jiu su lo ha se ne de ane de be.
And lastly then, we read, and to my deities of devotion I bow down. So here then, with regard to deities or divinities, it can refer to both those which are within the world of existence and those exalted meditational deities which are none other than the Buddha in person, that is to say the Buddha in a certain aspect, the Yidam deities. So with regard to the variety of those meditational deities, then the one for whom one has a special feeling of trust and of a like towards, then this are referred to as one's own personal deities of devotion, and this is what is referred to by this last line. So these then are the three exalted objects toward whom a teacher offers supplication and homage. The next two lines then refer to the angle at which the teacher is coming from, about his life and about his practice, having cast away all my doubts about the value of spiritual practice. Here then, with regard to doubts, this can refer to doubts regarding the teacher and the teaching itself. So here then, having investigated and seen how worthwhile following such a teacher is, how worthwhile engaging in the practice of his or her teaching is, one then abandons doubts concerning that, understanding the benefit of engaging, or the value of engaging in spiritual practice or spiritual discipline, seeing the kind of importance of such a practice, then one exerts oneself. So this is the kind of promise then which the teacher himself is making. So then, promising to exert oneself in this wonderful practice, one needs, as the next stanza reads, to remove sleepiness, dullness, and laziness, in order to always be joyful when engaging in such incredible practices. Here then, as you know, we can divide our attitude or our mind into kind of a principal or main mind, and then those mental factors or those kind of attitudes which kind of are connected with the main mind. Here then, the first one refers to sleepiness, which is quite straightforward. It's a mind which falls asleep all the time. And next is dullness. Dullness refers to a clouding over of the mind, or a kind of blunting of the mind through whatever reason. And then last of all, laziness or procrastination. If one entertains these particular states of mind, what we find is that our mind becomes averse to engaging in virtuous or wholesome activities. So then one should, as much as one is able, abandon these three, thinking about the benefits of engaging in such wonderful practices, and then with a mind of great effort or a joyful mind, one should engage in such practices. If we look at sleepiness, this refers to an overindulgence in the intoxication of sleep, the nullification of the senses, and just being asleep or drowsy or daydreaming all the time. With regard to dullness, this refers then to keeping one's mind intoxicated away from virtuous actions through engaging in all kinds of behavior which would render one's intellect useless. And lastly, laziness or procrastination, that which may be kind of just sloth, or that which may be an over-exertion in busyness, whatever the case may be, that which keeps one away from the Dharma practice, engaging in procrastination away therefrom. These then are seen as the minds which one should abandon, and therefore one should delight in engaging in the spiritual practice which one has been taught. Next two lines then initially introduce us to helpful conditions to allow for the kind of development of our kind of spiritual life. Here then one is initially introduced to two mental states of mindfulness and introspection, which is translated here as being alert and mindful in my behavior. So here then, when we talk about mindfulness, we all have an idea of what is meant by being mindful, being careful about our activities, our physical activities, our verbal activities, and more importantly, keeping a watch on what's going on in our mind. This is what's referred to as being mindful. And this mental factor, or this attitude of mindfulness, is one which keeps guard over us, keeps watch on us, over our actions of body, speech and mind. And in order that that doesn't fall under the difficulty of being under the control of sloth, torpor and so forth, one then introduces introspection or alertness. So one's mind is continually alert, never a dull moment. There's never a moment when one is not aware of what of the actions of one's body, speech and mind. And the reason for this is that, as the first line reads, one should guard the doors of one's body, speech and mind against negative action. So here when we talk about the doors, especially the doors of one's sense faculties, this can refer to the faculty of the eye consciousness, the faculty the ear consciousness, nasal consciousness, etc. One should be on guard that these particular sense consciousnesses, if they come into contact with objects which would arouse kind of desirous attachment or extreme aversion within us, we should be careful that this does not kind of overcome us, so that we develop the habit of being with or being part or being made up of these destructive emotions. Because it is these very destructive emotions which we are trying to subjugate, whether by the watching over of the mind or whether by the abandoning of those particular objects. So here then, again and again one should examine one's mind to see if the destructive emotions are arising with regard to the objects of the sense doors, and see how one is reacting thereto with one's body, speech and mind through employing mindfulness and alertness. And the duration of this should be day and night, continually becoming familiar with mindfulness and alertness, and then through developing the conducive conditions that will allow one's spiritual practice to kind of develop. And this is what is meant by, in the beginning when we recite this short thing known as the foundation of all good qualities, there when it talks about the subduing of the three doors, allowing one to keep the vows of individual liberation well through utilizing alertness and mindfulness, and that is the meaning thereof.
Oh yeah.
So being constantly mindful and alert as the cooperative or helpful condition which will aid one's meditation. So here the word meditation is something which is widely used. But if you were to ask what is really meant by meditation, it is that which subdues one's unruly mind. And that's it. Meditation is that which can aid one to control or take control of one's mind. So here, if we think that meditation is just sitting quietly with one's eyes closed, then one is very much mistaken. One needs to develop positive states of mind and abandon one's negative states of mind. With regard to the practice of meditation, it is that which will allow one the space, the freedom to develop such positive states of mind, and then to abandon and get rid of such negative states of mind. And with those kind of neutral states of mind, allow them to then develop into positive states of mind. So for this to arise, as the latter two lines read, one should continually examine one's mind. When you may wonder, over and over again, day and night. So one should continually be within the kind of space, if you like, of meditation, continually vigilant, continually mindful of what is going on within one's mind. And this, for the practice of meditation, is extremely important. There is a series of questions to illustrate this by Lama Tsongkhapa called the Wondrous White Questions. And Tsongkhapa himself wrote these questions down and offered them to his disciples and asked them to reply. And it seemed that one of the questions was, what is as important as the beginning of a text, what is as important as the Sanskrit beginning to a religious scripture or text? In ancient Tibet, when the great translators translated from Sanskrit the sutras, the word of the Buddha, the shastras, those commentaries thereupon, the beginning to indicate the authenticity of the scripture, they would always write in the ancient language of India, and then they would have the title in Sanskrit, and then they would thereafter you would read in Tibetan, the translation is such and such, and then the bulk of the teaching or the scripture would begin. So Tsongkhapa asked then his disciples, what is as important as that at the beginning of one's practice? So here then, for 6 generations, nobody answered, and that text was left open. And then the 6th generation of disciples came the first Panchalama, whose name was Losang Chu Gyaltsen. And this individual, in a short text which is known as the replies to the Wondrous White Questions, he replies that what is as important to shape the to prove the authenticity of a scripture is its Sanskrit name at the beginning, and what is as important as that to kind of authenticate one's meditation is the analysis of one's mind at the beginning of that meditation session. So here then, to illustrate this point, examining one's mind time and time again, making sure that one's mind is in a wholesome and positive state, which is the meaning then of subduing the mind, which is what meditation is all about.
Oh yeah. I didn't have your word, I charge you somebody saying the one that's an egg. Someone was a down of being another Hajani be Jisu Yaranda in Tabani Church of Chumachi. Maranda, someone around Senate, Sachimbuchi, yes, Senate, no Jonathan Durba. Then the Chanchu Samba Senate, round the Karachana Chesam Yawako, Yen Pembajichona, Naran Karachana Chesam, a pen me Jimbagi, me Jimber, me Hongudana, me Jimbatangari. Gold5 what Jimbatan to you, and the Tavala Lut and the Jimbatan to Locho to Shemboa, Joba Canadian to the summer of it, Ishambali Jimbatan to the Chilwadi, Tended and Naranjo, Jisu Yeraya, Chiakalekabo, and Harvard to Chukan of Common Young Michiana, Tended Mede Yuma, the son of Pongasani, Yuma the Sansan. What? Never Mariko, Kalekale, home, ya, Yungu, just as you are somebody. Homna hawa maybe muke kaya yo mayin soni homna no kale kondo na no lera ucha do yo ade mandushi sane chugo na ja mate bachi mashin bachi sambayina and me jimbata wo jimbata sneda wada tenege tene be ra yawa ko yinju to rule lamba snede yoya khabu de sansa de ji yong yo ba te khabu ke mari no ko yo Monday, Debe Sanji Jonde, the Zokalo, Langa Tagaran and Pet. And how you are Yenji to Lurin, the Nindo Pet to Jesse Chanjus to be Jobala Romney, Sanji. Tata Sanji Jonde, the Zoi Tagari, Mohammed and Chobaji, Sanji Jonde, the Zoya Tagari, Jusanji, Sanji Tanji, Sanjing to the Nebe, 2 chip,
After this kind of introduction to the kind of practice, the actual instruction for the Bodhisattva comes. So here then, when we talk about Bodhisattva, what is meant by Bodhisattva? It's a Sanskrit word. It refers to an individual who is possessed of a mind which strives to achieve the highest enlightenment, complete and perfect Buddhahood, for the benefit of all sentient beings. This individual's activities are really a cause of incredible wonderment. When we contemplate the activities of the Bodhisattva, not only are they something which is kind of difficult to engage in, but those activities are something which are even difficult to comprehend. I want to talk about newcomers to this ideal, or this idea of the Bodhisattva. These are things which initially one would just say, oh, that's impossible, don't be so ridiculous, how could an individual engage in such activity? The activity to be engaged in is the complete eradication from any self-interest whatsoever. Complete interest and absorption in working solely for the welfare of others. This is then the activity and then the conduct of such an individual, such a Bodhisattva. Such a Bodhisattva can give away quite easily his eyes, his head, his body, limbs, etc., for the benefit of others. So if we see, when we hear these words, if we look at our reaction, for the most of us it's, oh, that's impossible. Here then, one shouldn't be so rash. This is something which is certainly possible if we understand the training in bodhicitta through this familiarity. It is perfectly feasible that we could engage in such incredible altruistic activities. There is nothing preventing us from this, and there are so many reasonings and so many historical stories showing how individuals engage in such wonderful practices. Of course, it is something which arises through the force of familiarity. It is not something which is going to arise and be with us in any stable way instantaneously, but through engaging in the conduct of the practices of a Bodhisattva, initially hearing them, becoming familiar with them, etc., there is no reason why we cannot ourselves engage in such wondrous activities. So that we should contemplate how the Buddhas of the past have travelled this Bodhisattva path through initially developing bodhicitta and then training in its conduct. The Bodhisattvas at the present moment are training in this in order to achieve Buddhahood. The Buddhas who have just become enlightened trained in this, and then the Buddhas of the future will also train in these activities of the six perfections, etc., and therefore achieve the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood, as they have done, are doing, and will do. So in just the same way, if we apply ourselves, we can make such great strides in spiritual practice.
Oh yeah. 다기 네바 자자신 진지 출발 살면자 다기 연된 바자신 진지 연된 잡을 자서 다기 소소기 만지버도 가려면 내한테 뭐선 생내봐 잡라 체르스 저거스 그마도 지기 벤이 비디오 말이스 진지 출발 살면자서도 메신다기 벤 노출도 만지버도 가려도 세저거 제네 근데 지디오 말이스 걔도 전에 진지 쥐는 다 조금만 됐어. 현지권 중내 대학은 네가 말이지. 대인도 전에 현지 출발점이 잤어. 라기 연대 바자시. 나는 소소로 있는데 이거나 말을 된다고 있는데 유여선 첨자체 시버집에 면에 유여집에 사다도 제 근데 쟤는 네가 말이지. 나기 연대인데 바꾸고 어디서. 현지 연대 잡을 차. 현다기 연대지 여바에는 간대 현다 연대도 요르스나 봐 첨자체는 안에 봐 세보도 현다기 하고도 안에 근데 제 보고리스 지난 내다기 조약이 네 최진 양내 손사 최단 지대니 네 가와소소인 다도 돼 지대에는 나디 시부지 소소 따라당 보고와 미현다 대시다 말을 논도 전에 마도 보고 마자니 소소야 셔버도 파바도 전도 치고 가봐. 에다 아 저번 집에 남자네 집에 가려면 가게 매선 매서스 message. Hansa Shada be Monatana, or Yogati, what is in 20. So I go in and I go in, that's why I'm never changed. What does you? That can it check what the Carrera to do what is Senna? So Juji, Majeda, Tabo to the man, Joya, Pinjo. And the Mishada Toge, the Genji didn't be joined the Shidaki be up to the Karsana, and court is only cheaper to power of the Gen when the Digama Sunday, Tado when the long day, the Genji 20, Daliorba. Hanaji, Sosu Yendenti be up, Honeycon, Mangushi, Cherayan, Naji Warba. Then to Tane, Najeda, Tado Jumber Chido, and then Tangi, and then the Young. That is, and Najeda Tado Chumbi Chido, and Dagi, Neba, Sosu be Tamandiba Korean and Tibe, Tamandiba di Chunson, and what happened to this. Consumption Dagi be no true down, joined the Tenecardo, said the Chijomanis. And then Sosu Yendente, backward, Sosu Yende, Yanaya, Yende the Mabena, I ended you, and may Yenden do Yenden to Siduko, Majiti. And Yende the Beshana. Ramidula Majamajo the Pedro. Yendi and then the Tashana, Yanabe, Tado Majabal, Tado somebody, Radosu Juji, Tado Majabachin, Tado Majumbu, what is it? And Yendi and the Tabar Chas of Duzane, Majeta Tado and Yimudi,
so then starting the actual kind of body of the instruction, the first two lines read, I should proclaim my faults, not seeking faults in others, hide my own good qualities, and praise those of others. Here, with regard to this particular practice, this is one within which there is a dividing line. Here, the dividing line is between what we can refer to as the worldly, and then the kind of spiritual in this sense. Here, with regard the usual way of looking at things in the world, if one has kind of a fault, one has a kind of a bad habit or something like that, one kind of keeps it very, very hidden, and one rather seeks to find faults in others. So here, this particular activity of the Bodhisattva is one which goes completely against that grain. Here then, one openly proclaims one's own faults and doesn't seek faults in others whatsoever. So with regard to one's own faults, whatever they may be, one doesn't try to hide them, one is quite straightforward and honest and openly declares, yes, I have this problem, or yes, I have this attitude, etc. Then also, with regard to one's relationship with others, one doesn't seek fault in others, one rather dwells on the good qualities of others, which is exemplified by the second line, which reads, hiding one's own qualities, whatever they may be, one kind of keeps quiet about them, keeps them to oneself. Whereas in a worldly sense, one would advertise any kind of slight kind of quality which one had, and then seeking out the faults of others. But here the attitude is completely reversed, and one praises others' qualities as much as one can. So this is the activity of the Bodhisattva then, which is completely in disaccord with the world, let's say. So you may wonder, why is it then that I should engage in such a practice? What's the benefit that I could glean through engaging in such a practice? And the difference here between the Bodhisattva and the worldly individuals is that the Bodhisattva's prime concern is to subdue the unruly mind. So what is subdued here by hiding one's own qualities and praising the qualities of others is that one's mental afflictions or destructive emotion of pride cannot arise if one hides the objects about which one could become proud. Whatever good qualities one has, one keeps them hidden and doesn't develop pride and haughtiness thereupon. And with regard jealousy then, jealousy with regard to others, for example, if we see others' good qualities, we react by saying, yes, but that person has a terrible quality, etc. One reacts with a jealous mind. So in order to quell or quash such a jealous mind, then one praises the qualities of others. and through praising the qualities of others, one's unruly mind becomes somewhat subjugated. The destructive emotions of pride and jealousy have no hold within an attitude which serves to keep one's own good qualities hidden, only exposing one's negative qualities, and with regard others, praising their good qualities and not finding any fault in them whatsoever. So, through engaging in these two activities, one subdues one's unruly mindsets of pride and jealousy.
Neo cheba ta yang khare ne be yo ju ta ko khare ne jinda ge ran la be shou ji shua ta de wa de tele be shen be chaba de pang ho so ye de kurte pang de chi ye ba la chaba kurte le chaba de de ne ba pang ba le so ke da da do pang ba cha so ke se du wa de ne ta ha la ya ane ke sang ya de be chong ge te to ne chen ne de yang ko jinda ge de ne che be yin ne 제가 나라비 제가 용한 저로 제가 되는 게 캐다 제가 되는 게 신바 신차 봉스 안에 라니 비 년다 정보 비디 연대 정보를 써야죠 다 되게 비 년별 잡아디 존나 선별로만 계속 안에 캐다도 봉스자 다 되가나야 녀버 충신 초시 당스 당가란 디부도 선의 마음에 너를 좀 망고질이야 차신 제바텔라 저바 쳐. 근데 맞제바 제네 마모주 고고도 사나 맞제바 제 소소래야 고고 유지 용노제 마도 제게 마모진가 고고 유 삼바데 맞제나 요 총. 총 시바 스두산에 다 소소 여바데기 지바 제바데 초시스. 에 여바데가 만제바 제네 야 샤바 마모주 고고도 삼바이나 초 미신 마스. 근데 엔다데 아주 본인 라보도 지어래. 누가 총한테 초시번이 지과를 줘야 돼. 누가 친보다 초메시번이 지과를 줘야 돼. 라고 해야 돼. 얘나야 마음에 되는 요제를 세바다. 다다위 요제를 세바게 차네. 아니 누가 초한테 초시번이 고야. 아 마음에 요제를 세바 빵바다. 다다위 요제 마음을 세바 빵비 차네. 누가 총한테 초시번이 고야. 근데 대지 치바만도 제게 용당으로도 찍어요. 안디가야 제일 진도 소리 자. 아 신제 제가 그러나서 편도 제가 될이야. 디 진도 까지 이 제네 해라봐. 편도 제고가 그래서 수 편도 제베 렌테는 파 아니 소소 편도 제네 아니 디틀렌디 서버 제고요. 그래서 근데 딘지딘기 여러 부죠 뭐. 제대나야 수편도 제발라 파편도 제발이나 여러분 수편도 제발라 파 여러 문제는 민디비디 철매바다 미데 마르제 그리고 되는 게 민디 zambu member tsiwa mi nembe randuwa sosola yendi pendo cheba yena te pendo tembe mana pa penela tembe juba yena eni yarabu juba yo te yendane chela tendo zoa chaasam ondi.
The next 5 lines of the translation you have read, "Not seeking material gain or veneration from others, I'll be able to abandon any desire for fame. Being content with whatever I have, I shall not fail to repay whatever kindness I receive from others." So here, with regard to this particular section of the text, the first 2 lines which we went through before were the antidotes for pride and jealousy. Here, this is the antidote which is given for desire or desirous attachment. So here then, with regard objects of desirous attachment, not seeking material gain, here this can refer to various objects which are worth a lot of money, which is very valuable. It can also refer to kind of a good business deal, etc. It can also refer to gaining lots of money and so forth. Here they're not being overly interested in that. Or in achieving, the second part, veneration from others. Here then it could refer to having a great assembly of disciples or students. It could refer to having a host of attendants and servants, etc. Receiving veneration from a variety of different sources is again something which one should abandon. Through having abandoned such gross objects of desirous attachment, one will be able to abandon desire for fame, reputation, etc. What others thinking that one is great and whatever one does, etc. This somewhat more subtle object of desirous attachment can be thoroughly abandoned through then the initial abandoning of, or training in the abandonment of overindulgence or over interest in the desire for these particular objects. Then the actual mental factor which one introduces in order to kind of subjugate that is contentment. So here when we talk about being content, it is just simply that, being kind of at ease with or at home with whatever one has. So there is the kind of debate that is contentment and having kind of a little desire very similar. Here then there is a similarity, but here when we talk about contentment, it refers to the present moment with whatever one has. One is just happy and fine with that. Whereas having less desire, there is still then the kind of focus on the future, of gaining something for the future. So with regard to the kind of object and with regard to time, there is a slight difference with regard to the two. One should then look at what one has, thinking that this is enough, it sustains me, I have enough here. So this contentment then is what one brings to mind in order to then quell the destructive emotion of desirous attachment. Then there is the kind of concluding line here, which is not particularly otherworldly, but it is rather something which is known as the kind of polite worldly behavior, not failing to repay whatever kindness I receive from others. So in general, when we receive kindness, help, etc. from others, then recalling that kindness that was shown to us, and then repaying that kindness, to that individual in specific, and to all others in general for the kindness one has received from them. This is then the kind of decent human attitude which concludes this particular section.
장단 인지 공제 신시비 정바든 인지 정바 침보다 인지 침보 공부 지혜체 송구요 다 정바 침보다 인지 침보 공부할 때에 아니 자주도 샘디 아니 샘제네 아니 지체고가 연구다니 자주 샘네 땜바 자선 아다 자주도 샘디 시작이 땜바 자체는 송구야 되니까 가르쳐서는 자주가 샘텔라 주마도 주마 마인바 니여베 남기 자주가 주마 마인바도 줄었지 제가 책도 찾네 자주 샘네 땜바 자선 어디가 내가 말아서 참제를 또 야베 가나 선제 단계가 된다 선지도 고번 토바 책인 상도 상바지 용어를 듣지 땜바해요 말이야 줄도 거래 줄도 거래 에다 다 선제 단계가 된다 나는 양다고 조베 선지도 고번 토바 되게 상바 나나 수수게 되는 베리 원다 그 주만 많이 봐야 오지 줄에 제바이나 아니 자주 선네 땜바 자세디 원다 되지
The next two lines then, I shall meditate upon love and compassion, reminding myself always of bodhicitta, the all-trusting mind of enlightenment. So here then, there is some slight difference in the translation, and I'll explain that in accordance with Rinpoche's instruction. So here, when we talk about meditating upon love and compassion, these are words with which we are quite familiar, but what is actually meant by love? What is actually meant by compassion? Here when we talk about love, this refers to an attitude which wishes others to have happiness and the cause of happiness. When we think about compassion, this is an attitude which wishes others to be free of discomfort, dissatisfaction, and the causes of such gross and subtle dissatisfaction, discomfort. So these attitudes are not completely alien to us. We have these with regard to our friends, family members, those who have achieved high states of realization within the paths of the hearers and the solitude realizers also have love and compassion. The difference is whether this love and compassion is great or small. Here, great refers to its object or its field, all sentient beings without exception, whereas that which isn't that refers to the lesser minds of love and compassion, which focus just upon perhaps one or two individuals. So this one should understand and develop then these minds which wish all sentient beings without exception to have love and to have happiness and the causes of happiness, and to be free of dissatisfaction and the causes of such dissatisfaction. These minds then of great love and compassion serve then as the cause for achieving bodhicitta, as it is mentioned in the scriptures, that the cause of bodhicitta is the meditation upon great love. So this reflection, contemplation and meditation is extremely important, and through meditating upon love and compassion, one's practice of bodhicitta becomes stable. Here what is written down as reminding myself always, if we translate that as stable, so that bodhicitta becomes stabilized through meditating upon love and compassion. When we talk about having a stable understanding or experience of bodhicitta, this refers to an attitude which is uncontrived and which arises naturally. The difference here between contrived and uncontrived is that, for example, with regard to the former, when we perhaps engage in a bit of practice, we recite the prayer, may all sentient beings have happiness in the cause, may all sentient beings be free of suffering in the cause. And this is just a temporary, fleeting thought. There's no stability there at all, even though we can say it has some semblance to the mind of bodhicitta. It is not the uncontrived bodhicitta. It is rather something which is temporary. So in order to stabilize this, in order to make this kind of uncontrived and permanently part and parcel of our existence, then we need to continually remind ourselves, or to stabilize this through continual reflection upon love and compassion.
인제 첨부를 줘. 인제 첨부때 참바 첨부를 줘. 참바 첨부때 진소를 줘. 진소때 진전을 줘. 진전때 마셔발을 되는 줘. 마셔발때 돈용을 되는 좀지. 어디도 있어. 그래서 하마 저보다 치마 주지. 근데 야셰바이나 도스. 아마 주제제마도 좀 제바이나 담보 신전 탐제라 예린 차단다들 돈용지. 얘네 마셔버지. 얘네 제점버지. 얘네 제소지. 얘네 용원의 전부지, 얘네 니지지, 얘네 하삼지, 얘네 전주주도 셈제 바셈 인거. 얘도 단에 다단다 동년에 막 때지 수잖아. 아니 어디잖아. 그래서는 로종티 제발 침배 남단 제로 차려. 로종티 제발 침배 남단 제로 차려. 얘다 다 전주가 셈제 라벨에는 지금 침배 손자 쇼거들을 봐. 단 딜에는 전주 셈네 템버 차서는 아니 뭐를 모두 와. 당 공고스네다. 이제 당 뭐를 모두 와. 대인도 단에 전주 셈 템버 제발이야. 하삼 구구야. 대용바 제발이야. 된 인제다. 두수 구구 인자. 아니 담보다 돈년에 마시나. 내가 다 돈년 무슨 예린 차단이다 저 단어. 말아서 소소리야 팬다베 다 소소리베 가본 예비 초텔이야 같이 배 대화 전에는 뭐야 동네 총론지 중소나요 만져도 이거 소소탄에 막아서 자지나 텔레베 대화 총소나 아까 거기는 마존에 사서 콜로 동네 같이 총소나 다다고 펴볼 조사베 삼바요도 봐. 이 가르에서는 예린 차단 수침부 요것도 되지. 다 제대로 예린 차단 수침부 매배 돈음지 맨나 신제 탐제라 랑게 친되게 만나신게 랑게 마친요 시베데네 로디 용토 말이야. 걔면은 진짜 용 말이 걔면은 진소 용 말이 걔 하마마마도 용 거. 그다 되게 얘도 사네 담보 되는데 돈음지 뭐야. 걔가 단단 알아도데 얘라 따다한테다 잘라 따다니데 배데 타는 뭐 시부지베 샤르다 농구 소다들이 차디 서주베 하장게베기 타 무지 차디가 자라 동네 전에 거려야지 얘라 동네 전에 거려면 자라 대화 전에 거려면 얘라 대화 전에 거려야지 대화 같이 전에 초시가 말이 얘도 전에 되게 로디기 파톤 친구 주야 인다 아티 근데 파톤데 매버지는 또 녀르 땅에 아니 녀르 차단다 저 돈양기
Mind of bodhicitta, which we've been referring to, is something which does not arise spontaneously, it does not arise causelessly. It is something which arises in dependence upon a kind of special insight, or rather superior intention. This arises in turn upon the meditation of great compassion, which arises in dependence upon the mind or attitude of great love, which arises in dependence upon the attitude wishing to repay kindness, which arises in dependence upon initially recalling that kindness, which arises in dependence upon reflecting upon the kindness of all sentient beings through having had the experience of being one time or another one's kind parent sentient beings, which arises then through the contemplation of equanimity. So equanimity then serves as the ground, in dependence upon which one can contemplate on how all sentient beings have had the experience of being one's kind parents, in dependence upon which we can recall the qualities or the kind of that kindness which was shown to us, wish to repay that kindness, meditate on great love, great compassion, and then the superior intention, finally culminating in the state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. That is to say, the mind of bodhicitta, which then opens up the doorway to the grounds and paths, culminating in that state. So understanding that this is the mode of progression, we should then contemplate initially what is meant by equanimity. So here, even though this is not written about in this text, one should understand that this particular instruction is meant for a person who is of a greater faculty, that is to say, greater vehicle individual, a person who has already embarked on the bodhisattva's path. But for serial training, like that which is found within graduated stages of the path to enlightenment, what we find is a difference. Here then, there is the kind of reflection of a person of lesser, middling, and then greater capacity. So as this is a text which is from within the scope or the sphere of an individual of greater capacity, one needs some explanation of how then this mind of aspiring to the highest enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, bodhicitta, can then arise. And in order for this to arise, one needs to understand the mind of equanimity, or having an equal view towards all sentient beings. Because if we examine our mindset at the moment, we find that with regard our enemies and our loved ones, they are as different as the directions east and west. And our attitude towards them is just as different. If our kind of enemy is struck with misfortune, we delight in that. If our relatives or close ones are struck with misfortune, we are kind of alarmed and horrified. If our loved ones otherwise receive happiness, we are delighted. And if our enemies receive happiness and well-being, we are infuriated. This is the present condition of our mind. And with such an attitude, there is no way we'll be able to develop an equal view, equal in the sense of equal in regard to all sentient beings, having had the experience of being one's kind mothers at some point in time. This reflection will not arise. It will be one-sided towards those towards whom one feels close, that is to say one's friends, family members, etc. And it will be averse from one's enemy, from one's those to which one has an averse view, one's enemies, or those who are slightly in disaccord with the way we feel that they should exist. So with such a kind of sided view, it is impossible then to engage in this second course, reflection on all sentient beings having been at one time one's kind parent sentient beings. Then if that causal factor doesn't arise, then recalling the kindness cannot arise, and subsequent causes leading them to the attitude of bodhicitta cannot arise. So one initially then needs to contemplate on the field, as it were, of equanimity, and after having levelled that, work at developing these particular causes. With regard to the contemplation on equanimity, what one utilizes as the field is the individuals towards whom one has a neutral stance, then one's friends, relatives, and one's enemies, and those who are in disaccord with us. And the reflection then is how there is no certainty within our existence. What is that, you may wonder? Here, when we think about certainty, it is a kind of belief which we have that things are somehow stable. When we reflect on how they have friends and enemies, there seems some kind of tangible friendness or enemyness to those individuals. However, if we contemplate, we see that there are those family members who are within the scope of this life, what to talk about all one's previous existences. So they seem very kind of close to us, but it depends upon a small condition they can turn into our heated enemies. And the same with our enemies of this life, those who are in disaccord with us, owing to a slight change in attitude or owing to a slight change in condition, they can become our best friends, our loved ones even. So we see that if we take a step back from the scenario that there is no certainty that an enemy of this life has always been an enemy, or will always be an enemy, and a close one of this life hasn't always been close to us. In the past, they have given us a hard time, they perhaps even murdered us. All of these are possibilities because there is no certainty with regard attitudes towards us, towards one within the cycle of existence. They are rather within a state of continual change. Being such, there is no certainty that who is a friend today will be a friend tomorrow, who is an enemy today will be an enemy tomorrow. So reflecting then on this lack of certainty with regard to different types of individuals,